We all want the food we eat to be the best. That's why people are genetically modifying food such as salmon to make it bigger, cheaper, and faster growing. This can make a big difference in the way salmon is grown and consumed. But what are GMOs? GMO stands for genetically modified organism, and there are both a lot of pros and cons to growing the genetically modified salmon. A con would be that it needs a lot of food to grow, and if it escapes into the wild, it can take nutrients from the natural and wild salmon. A pro to this is that they are kept in concealed spaces away from other wildlife. Another fact about the salmon is that it grows to market weight in about 16 to 18 months versus the 32 to 36 months for conventional salmon. This salmon also contains a growth hormone gene from a faster growing salmon in the Pacific Chinook, and a prompter sequence from the ocean pout. Combined, the gene and prompter sequence, which enables the salmon to grow year-round instead of seasonally like wild or farm salmon. How you feel about GM salmon might change by the end of this video.
Growth enhanced salmon is better for the environment because of reduced carbon emissions, and it works like this. The salmon is farmed in land-based utilities that are close to cities, and it only needs to travel a short distance to get to the grocery store. This cuts down on transportation, and therefore carbon emissions, from farm to table. Transporting the salmon emits 23 to 25 times less CO2 than the two major sources of U.S. Atlantic salmon.
The first con would be breeding the genetically modified salmon if they did escape. This would outcompete wild salmon for natural resources like food. This could be a problem because then the wild salmon would not be able to survive or compete with the genetically modified salmon. This could cause the wild salmon to not be able to reproduce, which could make it scarce.
Since genetically modified salmon is grown in concealed spaces, it is not as bad for the wild fish population, meaning we will still have natural salmon and reduce the pressure on wild salmon. Some people prefer wild salmon over regular salmon, meaning people of both views for and against genetically modified salmon will get their way.
Environmentalists are concerned that these fish may interact with the natural ecosystem in harmful ways. These are primarily concerned about the abilities of transgenic fish to compete, persist, and reproduce in the natural environment, essentially becoming an invasive species. There are many reasons to think that high levels of growth hormones may influence these abilities, but it is not yet clear how.
The fact that genetically modified salmon are grown in concealed spaces means that they aren't bad for the environment and that we will always have a fresh supply of salmon. Since we will have a fresh supply of extra fatty salmon, it means that we will be able to feed many people with just one salmon that grows faster and larger in a shorter period of time than normal salmon.
The accelerated growth of these fish can cause abnormalities because of the growth hormones. This can result in deformed heads or not normal organ sizes that can give the genetically modified salmon a disadvantage in harsh natural conditions. This can also alter their lifespan and other things that can make it hard for them to survive in their environment.
Wild caught or not, most of us can still agree that salmon is still amazing either way. Although there are still lots of pros and cons, if we do a good job protecting the two types of salmon and making sure they don't meet with each other and breed, both sides of the argument for and against growth enhanced salmon will be happy. This will make it so that we still have natural salmon in our oceans and growth enhanced salmon in their farms.